E shape, A chord, pentatonic, and major scale position 2, or E shape, A chord, scale position. Get ready because it's time to rock and or roll. Here we are on our worksheet where we have the top string on top, that being the low or heavy E string, string closest to the ceiling, the high E string, the one closest to the floor on the bottom, 0 representing the open fret, the one which, if indicated, we would not be fingering down, but rather ringing out as open. Frets 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, the ones that we would be putting a finger down on if indicated in this case by the orange items on down below. We're now looking at the E shape and the A chord position. Let's recap the E shape in the open position where we'll typically learn the E shape to start off, noting that we typically only need 3 fingers right here fingering this item. We have these 3 notes that would then be open. The open E representing the root of the chord. That's the one you want to follow so that when you move the shape up, you know what chord you're playing. Noting that as we play this and any chord in the open position, we want to be able to say that that is an E chord shape in the open position so that we keep in our mind the ability to move the shape up and not contradict the fact that it's a E shape in the open position, which is now an F chord, moving on to a G chord, to an A chord, and so on and so forth. So it's a nice full chord that we have here in the open position. As we move it up, then we can play the same fingering, or we can reposition our fingering, in this case to another fingering that is quite common for a bar chord. So let's move on down, back on down to the A position. So now we're going to have our A position. Now again, you could just keep the same fingering the same here, just play those same 3 strings and not ring out the E string, or you could actually ring out the E string here. And note, as you're doing some of these chords and you're moving them up, it's interesting to note, you can start to see, does this open string or some of these other open strings fit within my shape here, so that if I played the same shape and I played that open E, well, it looks like that, that would fit into my A, my A shape, and have that low bassy E when you're playing an A chord, which give you a different kind of feel for it, a different voicing of it. But that's neat that can happen. You got that open E then at the bottom as well. So you want to look for those kind of things too. So you can move, you can play the same shape, you can move that up, you can play the shape down here, and then you can reposition your fingers for the full bar chord, barring this off, using your other 3 fingers here, working on the ability to hold that bar chord down as you progress up the neck of the guitar, that being a little bit easier and easier to do because the frets will be smaller and smaller, making it a little bit less of a reach to do so. But even if you can't bar the whole thing off, then, if you try the bar and you get these 3-4 strings, you're doing pretty good. And you can also, again, adjust your shape. You don't have to play these 3 strings here while holding down the entire bar chord. If you're trying to emphasize these 3 strings, you can do something that would be most comfortable to emphasize these 3 strings. Same here, same here. Feel free to do that. You can arpeggiate this with some other song. If something is playing in the key of A in the open position, then you can move over here into this nice middle of the guitar position and have a different voicing with regards to the way the A then will be sounding. And you also, as you're doing that, remember you got these open A right here too, as you're moving around in the middle of the guitar, which can be nice as you're working in that kind of area. Let's go to our theory with regards to the A scale over here. If I was to take all of our notes from A to A and do our whole half type of thing for the scale of A, we would go from A, whole step to B, whole step to C sharp, half step to D, whole step to E, whole step to F, whole step to F sharp, whole step to G sharp, half step back on home to A. So the notes in the A scale would be A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, and back on home to A, numbering those from 1 to 7. The notes in the A chord then would be the 1, 3, 5, or A, C sharp, and E. Let's check those out. That should be what our fingers are on, way over here. So way over here, not quite there yet. Hold on. We've got the A, we've got the E, we've got the A, there's our C sharp, there's our E, and there's our A. We've got 6 strings that are happening here. We only need 3 to make a chord. So if you want to voice the chord out differently, you have alternative options there. Let's see our pentatonic. As we think about our pentatonic, let's first think about it in the home position, that being the position of C major or A minor. There's your position 1. If you're talking C major, A minor, the position 2 would be this position. That's the one we're looking at now. We are simply playing it now in this key of A. So we're going to go on over here so we can see that. So there it is, there it is. That's the one. Don't go too far. That's it. So now you can call this then an E shape, an E chord shape pentatonic scale in the key of A. That's one way you might refer to it. Or an E chord shape in the key of A, because you're playing, if you were playing the bar chord, you'd be pointing to that A. It would be an E chord in the open position pentatonic scale, because now you're laying that pentatonic, adding the other couple notes on top of it. As you're referring to the pentatonic scale, you're referring to the notes that reside in these 4 fret areas that are the added couple notes that would then complete the pentatonic or 5-note scale around that E-shaped chord in the A position. So then you can have different voicings that you could play on with the A chord, experiment with, and you can add then different notes if you're playing along with a song that is in the key of A or having A within the progression. Then of course you can then add the major scale on top of that. So then again you could call this an E chord major scale shape in the key of A, or an E chord shape in the key of A major scale. Again, basically then saying I'm playing that E chord shape, which is in essence just a bar chord here. You can just call it the major bar chord in the key of A major scale. And then you're saying I'm playing the other couple notes that are included over the top of that major scale or that major bar chord that represent the other few notes to get to the 7 notes from the 3 notes that are in the actual chord. If you go then to a little bit more in the theory, what other notes can you play if you're playing in A? So what kind of chords could you play? Typically, if you're playing a song in A major, you can choose from the chords of A major, B minor, C sharp minor, D major, E major, F sharp minor, and then often dropping off the diminished on the 7th. So you got then those chords. Often people will play the 1, 4, 5 for a good place to start. And that would then be the A, the D, and the E, which you could try to play this full shape over the top of as the progression goes on, starting with the arpeggio to be in the safest place, expanding to the 5 notes in the pentatonic, expanding then to the 7 notes in the major. You can also use this shape to move as the chord progression goes from an A to a D to an E, moving this shape around to play the related notes or play along with it with those related notes as the chord progressions change.